neo-behaviorism. Neo-behaviorism is an approach to psychology influenced by logical positivism that emphasizes the development of comprehensive theories and frameworks of behavior, such as those of Clark L. Yule and Edward C. Tolman, through empirical observation of behavior and the use of consciousness and mental events as explanatory devices. It is also a branch of psychology that bases its teaching on the idea that people learn their behaviors by watching others and imitating them. It focuses more on behavioral conditioning and cognitive processes than other schools, which may be why it has been less popular recently. So now that we already have an overview of the topic neo-behaviorism, we are going to dig deeper who are those persons involved in the neo-behaviorism. So, are you ready? Check this out.
Who is Edward Chase Tolman? Edward Chase Tolman was born on April 14, 1886 and died on November 19, 1959. Edward Chase Tolman was an American psychologist and a professor of psychology at the University of California, Berkeley. Through Tolman's theories and works, he founded what is now a branch of psychology known as purposive behaviorism. And Tolman also promoted the concept known as latent learning, first coined by Blodgett.
So what was his experiment? Tolman is perhaps best known for his work with rats and mazes. Tolman's work challenged the behaviorist notion that all behavior and learning is a result of the basic stimulus-response pattern. In a classic experiment, rats practiced a maze for several days. Then, the familiar path they normally took was blocked.
What is latent learning according to Tolman? Latent learning is a type of learning which is not apparent on the learner's behavior at the time of learning, but which manifests later when a suitable motivation and circumstances appear. This shows that learning can occur without any reinforcement of a behavior. So the idea of latent learning was not original to Tolman, but he developed it further. Edward Tolman argued that humans engages in this type of learning every day as we drive or walk the same route daily and learn the locations of various buildings and objects. Only when we need to find a building or objects does learning become obvious. So, other definition of this is latent learning is the learning that is not reinforced and not demonstrated until there is motivation to do so. Tolman argued that the rats had formed a cognitive map of the maze but did not demonstrate this knowledge until they received reinforcement. An example of this is of latent is an ability to swim that will become clear with a first lesson. An example of that in other latent learning is a psychological tendency that you are not fully aware of. An example also is our fingerprints which cannot be seen.
What are cognitive maps? According to Edward Chase Tolman, cognitive maps help people recall and learn information about the physical environment and are created by picking up on environmental signals and cues. Cognitive maps help people navigate both familiar and unfamiliar areas. Cognitive maps can be applied at different scales, from finding the bathroom down the hallway to navigating across the town. Irrelevant and unimportant information is omitted from the cognitive maps. Generally, cognitive maps are constructed through landmarks, street names, and left and right directions. So, cognitive maps is like from Basak going to Maine. Imong first landmark is ang CIT, then second landmark is ang Imol. So, mona ang cognitive maps, remembering the places to where you are going.
So the first question is, who is Bandura or Albert Bandura. So, Albert Bandura was born on December 4, 1925 in a small town of Canadian Town located approximately miles from Edmonton. So, the last six children, Bandura's early education consisted of one school with only two teachers for the high school. According to Bandura, because of this limited access to educational resources, the students had to take their own education or take charge of their own education. So, Albert Bandura is an famous and influential social cognitive psychologist who is perhaps best known for his social learning theory, which is the concept of self-efficacy, and also his famous experiment, which is the Bubudal study. And he is a professor emeritus at the Stanford University and is widely regarded as one of the greatest living psychologists. Then Albert Bandura's social learning theory stressed the importance of observational learning, imitation, and modeling, in which learning would be exceedingly laborious, not to mention hazardous, if people had to rely solely on the effects of their own actions to inform them what to do. Then, next question is what was his experiment? So as I said that his experiment is all about the Bubudal study. So what is the Bubudal study? So Bandura most famous experiment was the 1961 Bubudal study. So in this experiment, he made a film in which an adult model was shown beating up the Bubudal and shouting the aggressive words. Next, as the Bubudal study was the significant because it departed from behaviorisms and insistence that all behavior is directed by the reinforcement or the rewards. So the children received no encouragement or incentives to beat up the doll. So they were simply imitating the behavior they had observed. So Bandura termed this phenomenon the observational learning, characterized the elements of the effective observational learning as: first is the attention, second is the retention, third is the reciprocation, and the motivation. So Bandura's work emphasizes the importance of the social influences, but also a belief in the personal control. Then also people with high assurance in their capabilities approaches difficult tasks as challenges to be mastered rather than as threats to be avoided, and he has suggested. So that's all.
What did Albert Bandura derive out of the experiments? So, the Bubudal experiment, groundbreaking study on aggression led by psychologist Albert Bandura that demonstrated that children are able to learn through the observation of adult behavior. So, in 1961, Bandura carried out his famous Bubudal experiment, a study in which researchers physically and verbally abused a clown-faced inflatable toy in front of preschool-age children, which led the children to later mimic the behavior of the adults by attacking the doll in the same fashion.
And that's all, guys, for neo behaviorism, and I hope you learned something in our video. Thank you and God bless everyone.